Welcome. I call to order the Town Council regular session at 7:40, and the date is Monday, June 24th. And tonight we have the honor of having a Gold Award Girl Scout recipient, Maya Roth, here to lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance. So welcome, Maya, and if you could come forward.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Maya. And if we could just have you stay here, we would like to honor Maya with her proclamation. So I'm going to be asking that we move new business item 12A to the front of the agenda. Let me just get it. I also had the honor of presenting Maya with her proclamation at the Girl Scout bridging ceremony on a Friday night. I think it was a couple of Friday nights ago. So it gives us great pleasure tonight as a town council to honor Maya and give her her proclamation for her Gold Award publicly in the town chambers. So Maya Roth. A resolution affirming a proclamation presented on June 7th to Maya Roth for attaining the Girl Scout Gold Award as follows. Whereas Maya Roth, a graduating senior at South Kingstown High School, has devoted her time and her energy to complete the requirements of and participate in such a worthwhile organization as the Girl Scouts of the United States of America. Whereas she has met the challenges of the Girl Scout program and developed her courage, confidence, and character. She has demonstrated self-discipline, time management skills, originality, and initiative. And whereas she has practiced daily the ideals of Girl Scouting and discovered her own values, knowledge, and skills to explore the world, connected with her community locally and globally, and has taken action to make the world a better place. Whereas Maya restored the Hazard Memorial Garden next to the Peacedale Library as her Gold Award project. She learned about native and invasive species and cleared the small historic park. She educated her fellow volunteers about plant life and taught what she learned about the gardening and invasive species at the Museum of Primitive Arts and Culture, where she has earned the highest honor in Girl Scouting by achieving the Gold Award, bringing pride to herself and honor to her troop 554, her family, and to her community. May this be a preview of her future dedication to a purpose and service to pursue until she accomplishes the goal that she is seeking. Now therefore, we the Town Council of the Town of South Kingstown do hereby extend our congratulations to Maya Roth for a job well done and best wishes for success in all future endeavors.
Congratulations.
I'd also like to acknowledge her proud father in the audience as well. Thank you. Could we please have the roll call, Dale?
Council President Whaley.
Present.
Council Vice President McAtee. Here. Councilman Donnelly.
Present.
Councilwoman Healy. Present. Councilman O'Neill.
Here.
All members present.
Thank you, Dale. We have the approval of the minutes of previous meetings. We have the work session of June 10th, 2013.
I move approval of those minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We also have the regular session of June 10th, 2013.
I move approval of those minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Would any council like anything removed from the consent agenda?
I believe you wanted Communication D removed from the consent agenda, so I move that we
That's correct.
remove it.
We have a motion to remove the Communications D. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And can we have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I move that we accept the consent agenda as amended.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And at this time, I'm going to go through the two licenses, and then I'm going to move communications to the front, if that's okay. So let's get through License A. We have a resolution granting a holiday sales license to Thrifty Sister, 1183 Kingston, Rhode Island, first floor, Peacedale. Application by Therese Martin, 45 Messina Drive, Charlestown, Rhode Island. And is Therese here? Okay, we'll hold that for a little bit and come back to that. License B is a resolution granting a holiday sales license to Green Gas, 2949 Tower Hill Road, South Kingston, Rhode Island. Application by, and I hope I get this right, Cloud Kiami. I did all right. 240 Lakeshore Drive, Warwick, Rhode Island. If you could come forward and tell us a little bit about what your plans are. Welcome.
Welcome, thank you. It will be like gas station, like independent gas station. We will try to serve this town, and we will try to keep our prices as low as possible, like because it's an independent and small gas station. And we try to best for the town.
Okay. Do we have questions here at the town council table? How about hours of operation?
It will be from 6 morning till 10 and evening for 7 days a week.
Right. And it's the old Valero?
Yeah, it used to be old Valero. It
Right.
will be now One Energy gas as gas.
Okay.
We have another one in Warwick, and this will be the second one.
Oh, good.
Yeah, thank you.
Other questions here at the town council table? Carol?
Cloud, do you run the one in Warwick also?
Yeah.
You do. And when did you purchase the Valero?
It's not purchased, we lease it.
Oh, you
We
lease
the
it.
property. Yeah, it was like...
It's a franchise, right?
It's
Valero
not a
is
franchise.
now?
No, it used to be owned by independent.
Oh,
We just run it, we lease it, and we run it as independent too.
oh, very good.
Thank you.
And do you have a convenience store in there also?
Yeah, it's a convenience store with gas.
Other questions here at the table? Could you tell us specifically where the location is?
It's 2949 Tower Hill Road, South Kingston.
So is that like across from Shores?
No, it's
No,
just
it's
before the URI exit. It's just on Tower Hill Road.
Next to the Holiday Inn, isn't it?
Next to the
Yeah,
highway, just
right
before
up
the
there.
Holiday Inn and a highway.
Yeah,
Hey, big difference. No, really.
we had
We're
some
just trying to figure
confusion
out the
here.
location. Yeah, thank you. Other questions here at the town council table?
Well, we know he's in town.
Okay.
Yeah.
I move approval of new license B.
Second?
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
luck.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Okay. Actually, we'll leave Communications D where it is, and we'll get through A and C, and because B is on the consent agenda. So communication is, we have a communication dated May 9th from Tala Policello, Policy Aid Rhode Island Office of the General Treasurer, and a resolution adopted June 13th, 2013 by the Forster Town Council in support of the Municipal Road and Bridge Revolving Fund are received, placed on file, and the Town Council further directs.
We discussed this at the work session, and I'm moving that we place it on file.
A second?
We have motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Which brings us to Communication C. This is a communication dated June 12, 2013, from Lise Iwan, Esquire, requesting the Town Council to appoint her as an Associate Justice for the Probate Court to serve 1 day on August 3, 2013, as further described in a petition from Attorney Iwan dated June 12, 2013, is received, placed on file, and the Town Council further directs. Welcome, Lise. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good.
Good evening, members of the town council. After 30 years of breaking up families, it's nice every once in a while to put some families together. This will be the third time that you'll appoint me for judge for a day to put families together. I'd ask that you grant my petition.
Our pleasure.
I move that we do this with pleasure.
Oh, that sounds good. I'll second that.
We love the picture that you
Thank
sent
you.
to the
Well,
packet.
it's
was-
good, it's good to have a visual image, and hopefully the next time I appear before the town council, when we say the Pledge of Allegiance, our U.S. Supreme Court will declare DOMA unconstitutional, and it will be with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
All right.
That was a
Lise.
good plug, huh?
I'm trying all the time.
Any other questions before Lise departs? All right. We have a motion,
don't
we
think
have a
we voted
second. We
yet.
haven't
We
voted.
haven't voted yet.
We had a motion.
We have a
and
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations and happy wedding.
Oh, no.
All right.
Bye, Lise.
Thank you. Which brings us to Communication D. And we remove this from the consent agenda. This is a communication dated June 14th from John and Geraldine Perry requesting the town council consideration of an ordinance to regulate noise nuisance from domestic fowl is received, placed on file, and referred to the Director of Planning, which actually we're going to be changing that to versus the Director of Planning, but to our town solicitor. So, if you'd like to come to the microphone, John and Geraldine. Welcome.
Hello again.
Yes, as some of you know, we have an ongoing problem in the Kingston area, which we came before you a couple of years ago and has not resolved itself yet. And so we have a neighbor almost abutting our property that has a number of roosters that start crowing each morning before dawn. And we're at wit's end and felt compelled we had to do something. So we wrote you a letter requesting that a change be made to the noise ordinance, or modification to the noise ordinance, to allow us some sort of recourse in this situation. Currently in South Kingstown, there's no, we have nothing we can do. We can't call to make a noise complaint, which we've tried to do and been rebuffed by the animal control warden. It's been going on 6 or 8 years now, and it's not getting better. There are other people. I know Renee Katz is here with another neighbor of ours who supports this position. They live even closer to us than this, than we do to this chicken coop. So we're not interested in banning chickens. We don't want to take away anyone's rights. We just want to be able to open our windows in the summertime and not be woken up at 4 o'clock, 3:30 in the morning every single day by these roosters. So I'm not sure if people know that roosters are not necessary for egg production. They may be great pets. We don't care if they keep the roosters, but we just would like some peace and quiet in our neighborhood. And this problem is not going away. This woman, we've contacted the woman many times, attempted to contact her many times. She will not return phone calls or return messages. We finally did get to talk to her, and she says she's within her rights. And so we have nothing we can do. So we'd like just to have some ability to make a noise complaint if that becomes necessary, and maybe get a little peace and quiet in our quiet neighborhood. These are half-acre lots where we've lived there for a long, long time, and the situation is just we can't stand it much longer. So what we're asking, we're pleading with you for some sort of relief in this situation. I have a list of municipal codes from the language from a bunch of municipal codes from towns around this area, and almost every single town around this area. And this was a 10-minute online research, and I'd be happy to give you this language. Almost every town in this area and many, many other cities and towns in Rhode Island have a few words in their code which says any noisy animal or fowl. And I think we're really basically asking for a few words to be added to the noise ordinance to give us some way we can call and request some relief from this situation. I don't know if there are any other questions about our letter or...
I was going to bring my iPad and play a rooster crowing video for you, but it's not funny anymore for us. It's a daily event. It's every single day, every morning, and it goes on intermittently over the course of the day. And as John said, these are half-acre lots. We did not buy farmland. We did not buy in an area surrounded by farms. And when I called the animal control officer, he really interrupted me as I was speaking and said, you know, people are allowed to have their domestic livestock. And I kind of chuckled to myself because livestock to me includes, you know, donkeys and cows. I mean, there is no limit, I guess. We are very frustrated. And when we went to the planning board, regrettably, several members of the planning board and members of the planning department have chickens and roosters, and they had no sympathy or at all for us. And so we tried to be reasonable, but we are so frustrated. It's getting to the point where we talk about selling and moving because we just don't like it here with this ongoing situation. And our other neighbors here, we have another neighbor who left us a voice message indicating support for language strengthening the noise ordinance. We have another neighbor we spoke with who lives nearer to this particular individual who said he wouldn't oppose anything, but he's not willing to come forward in a meeting like this because it's his next or nearby neighbor. So it's kind of a sticky wicket when you ask us to, you know, strengthen numbers or get a petition. None of us are inclined to get names against a person that lives with us in our area. But I don't know, it seems like simple language that is present in many other municipalities could be added, and it would be an avenue for those of us who are so frustrated to take, relying upon, you know, a simple matter of enforcement. Reasonable people, I think, would agree that roosters every single morning at 4 o'clock it's a nuisance. It is a nuisance.
This is Renee Katz. She lives in our neighborhood also.
Hello. I applaud the Perrys for doing all this work and calling all the neighbors, because what I do is I close my slider and turn the air conditioning on in the morning at 4 a.m. when it starts to crow so I can get some sleep. But the annoyance is the rooster goes all day long until dusk. So this is, very annoying. I can't enjoy being outside or have friends over, or, the last weekend we had a party and I was worried about the rooster crowing during the whole party. So it is annoying, and she has no respect for neighbors. She's added now ducks to the whole herd, and now she's added another dog, and she's just disrespectful, and so we just want some recourse, and we just want it to stop, and it just is simple. It seems so simple.
It seems simple to us.
And Mrs. Katz, is it Renee?
Yes.
Renee Katz, thank
Yep.
you.
I'd like to present you with a copy of some of the language from some of the surrounding towns. Steve, can I give this to you?
Is it just one rooster, or do they have more than one?
Well, about, I don't know, 3 or 5 years ago, she had 2 roosters. We think now she has 2.
I guess so, yeah.
We're thinking that.
Carol?
Why does the rooster crow all day? Do we have any ideas? This isn't normal rooster behavior,
This
is
is
it?
normal rooster
It
behavior.
is all day long?
All day
Yeah,
long
all day
until
long.
the sun sets.
From before sunup, in the winter, the summer, it'd be nice to open the windows this time of year. You can't.
And let me just ask you this, if there were some kind of ordinance that would prohibit this, what would you suggest that the animal control officer do? Euthanize the animal? Is that what you?
No, I mean, she can keep the animal.
What do you
as
want
long
him
as
to
we
do?
don't have to listen to it. If there's some way she could keep this thing quiet, so we don't have to hear.
How
it.
would you
I
keep
don't-
it quiet? I have no idea if anyone would be capable of that.
I think it requires removal of the animal.
There are,
really.
I think really.
Oftentimes, we've learned that when people get a clutch, I don't know what the proper word is, of these small birds as babies, they can't be sexed accurately, so people don't always know if they're getting roosters. And then when people realize that they have a rooster, and they quickly can find out as it develops a full-throated crow, they oftentimes will find a willing farmer or some other person who has the acreage to accommodate birds that make noise like this. Alternatively, I've learned that some people keep them in a garage in a box, and that keeps, I mean, not to be sarcastic, but they say that they will crow if they even see the smallest bit of light, like you strike a match 2 blocks away. You know, it's an exaggeration, but that's how they react. That is the nature of the animal, and I'm not an expert, but you learn things along the way. So we don't want to have to listen to it. So if they could put it in a box, if it's a pet or something, so that it's not all day. I mean, sometimes it crows. This is how I've become. I have a second hand. You know, I'm a sailor. I'm a racer. I'm always looking at my watch and it's like sometimes it's 10 times a minute. So over the course of an hour,
just hours.
I mean, do the
hours.
math. It's very frustrating, and it seems as though in areas like this, with small parcels of land, where the impact on the neighbors is immediate, it doesn't seem fair to those of us who wish to just have a cookout or do our gardening and not have this constant sound in our environment.
Jim?
Are the eggs and/or meat all for personal consumption? Do they sell them at the side of the road?
I haven't seen that, so no, I don't believe so. I think they're for personal consumption. I've never been able to have a conversation long enough with this particular bird owner to establish any of those things. She's impatient and very curt, and then she hangs up. So, no, I don't know. I haven't seen that, though, so I don't assume that it's for a money-making farm stand thing.
No.
I don't think so.
No. It's not her livelihood.
Any other questions before I add my 2 cents?
I think if you read the information I gave to Steve there, you see that many other towns in this state have very, very simple language, a few lines, or maybe even a few words added to our own particular noise ordinance to give us some relief. I mean, it could be the words and fowl. Right now we have dogs and fowl and other animals. Something as simple as that could be added to our current noise ordinance, which would give us some recourse. Right now, there's nothing. And I don't think this guarantees that we're going to file a complaint against this woman. If she gets wind of this, takes care of the situation so we don't have to live with it, then that's fine. You know, all we want is just not to have to listen to this, I think.
That would really be what I would hope. But what I just want to say is I have nothing against chickens or roosters. You know, any kind of pets. I'm an animal lover, but I'm not happy that it does invade on the privacy, you know, of neighbors. And you know, I frequently sit out on my deck. You know, it's where I read my town council packet. And you know, as I was reading through my packet today, I said, you know I would not be able to focus and read through my packet if I heard, you know. I'm familiar with roosters. I've been to British Tortola, and that's all you hear down there. So I'm really hoping that there can be some kind of a resolution. I think at this point, when we put it in the hands of our town solicitor, he will be looking at, you know, how does something like that get enforced, and bringing back information to the town council. But I'm really hopeful that maybe
So Ella, what
your
would be
neighbor could work this out.
What can we do? What are the next steps? Do we watch for a notice, a meeting notice? Is there, some of this is, you know, foreign to us, you know, we're not doing this every week. So what would our next step be, or what should we watch for or look for?
Steve, do you think it will be enough time for Mike to come back at the next town council meeting, or a month from now? What do you see as a time frame?
Well, as soon as Michael gives us any type of correspondence, it's public correspondence, I can provide copies to John and advise them of when it's going to be considered by the council. so that
Okay.
they can have that dialogue with us.
That would be great.
Good.
So, Carol?
I just wanted to say, which you stated yourselves when you went before the planning board, there's going to be just as many people that are going to say, don't do this. So you understand
Well,
the
when
situation
we
it puts everyone in.
When we went before the planning board, the thing was to try to ban domestic fowl in neighborhoods. So that's not the problem now. The issue now is to increase or strengthen the noise ordinance or enhance the noise ordinance so that to give people, there is no noise ordinance, to give people some recourse.
There's a noise ordinance, but not as to,
Doesn't-
not as
right,
to roosters.
Right.
Barking
You're
dogs.
Right.
That's it.
You know, and many of these surrounding towns are not sophisticated, towns. They're very simple towns. They have something that South Kingstown has not been able to, through whatever reason, has not been able to, accomplish yet. And so we're hoping just for a little bit of relief.
Steve, my question is, when we did have the family in front of us with the barking dogs, I don't know if it was 10, 15 dogs and it was barking, we came up with 10 minutes worth of barking and it needed to be documented. Have we received many, many complaints about more barking dogs, or just having it as an ordinance, did that kind of put it to rest? And you need to answer, tonight. I'm not sure you have that information in your back pocket, but I would like to know that.
All right, we will look at that. As I had said to the council earlier, I think the main question isn't what other towns have in their ordinances, but rather how they're managing the ordinance in terms of their police departments or their animal control officers. That's what we want to look at. We're certainly familiar with the various languages that are in those other ordinances. The question is, what are we going to direct police officers to do to provide a case necessary to go into the district court? And also then what type of sanctions can be imposed? And is the sanction just of a monetary nature, or does it address the vacating of the location by that animal? These are different things that we need to look at, because what I don't want to do is to give false hope that an ordinance is going to effectively deal with the issue if, in fact, the building of the case is something that we need to be able to look at and determine how we do that, how it's been effectively operated in those other communities.
The question that I have is there a coop that they go into at night and they just run around the yard during the day? Or do they stay in the coop?
They're in a fenced-in area during the day, and they have a coop that's attached. So at night, they all go into the coop.
And we do have
sleep.
setbacks for the chicken coops, do we
Yes.
not?
Yes.
No, and I'm not even
issue-
sure if it's in compliance.
The issue isn't one of zoning at this point. The question has been, I think the original proposal was to ban the raising of fowl in a residential area. That did not go through with the consideration of the planning board. The tack that's now being asked is for us to look on whether or not through whether or not civil complaints that could go be brought forward under the noise ordinance or disturbing the peace is something that could effectively deal with this. Obviously, if somebody's going to be fined for violation of having a crowing rooster, the question would be whether they would get rid of the rooster or continue to be multiple citations. Also, what's going to be determined is how the court's going to address those types of things. Some other communities may have municipal courts, which are going to have local jurisdiction where we would be dealing in a district court environment.
So will you be, I'm sorry, Meg, will you be contacting neighboring towns to find out how, what their process is for their police departments, or no?
Yeah.
Michael will. Okay. Meg?
I would be interested to know, but I don't think there's any way that we know this information right now. How many property owners in town do have roosters as domestic pets, or fowl, if you will, to see if there are additional issues that other people in the community may have as well? But I don't think there's any way to find that out. I mean, I would just be interested.
I know a couple of years ago when we brought this up for the banning of domestic fowl, there were a large number of chicken people who attended the planning board meetings, and I think my impression was that most of those people felt that it was not necessary to have roosters, and they would not impose them on their neighbors. So that was clear to me in that series of meetings there. So I think it's unusual that a person would have these, and I think, and then maintain this nuisance year after year. I know my great-grandfather, I come from a farming family. My great-grandfather had 7 farms. He had chickens, pigs, horses, cows. I know as West Warwick grew more populated, people moved in around the area, and someone complained about the rooster, and he went out, and that was dinner that night. He took care of the situation because he had consideration for his neighbors. And we don't have that in the Biscuit City area there. And the other thing is, with the noise ordinance, if people love it for some reason, they want to listen to it, they don't have to complain about it. But it seems to me, if some people in the area, we live in this tiny neighborhood, if some of the abutters don't want to listen to it crossing their property lines, coming through their windows and doors, tightly closed windows and doors, at all hours of the day and before dawn in the morning, we should have some recourse, something to say, give us a break on this, and keep your chickens, do whatever you want with your rooster, but don't make us listen to it.
Okay, other questions here at the table?
I just want to say one more thing about I know you keep referring back to the ordinance on barking dogs, but dogs is like obedience schools, you can muzzle them. I think chickens, roosters are a different animal altogether. I don't think there's a way to train them not to do this. So I think we're talking about something entirely different. To say just piggyback it on top of the dog ordinance just doesn't make sense to me.
I understand what you're saying. We suggest that simply because that's in the language that we saw in the other communities. They were tied in together. So as it turns out, and none of us have brought this up, but this neighbor also has 2 dogs that bark, and I believe, although I don't know, she may be aware of the barking dog limit of 10 minutes because they do, Renee, they bark a lot. We haven't said anything about that tonight because don't want to seem like those kind of people, but they do have dogs that are, noisy, but again, I don't know a lot about roosters myself. We've learned some things over these years. As for the dogs, it is a different thing. You're right. They can be trained. They're pets. They're family pets. They live inside your home.
Right.
It's different. These are wild. Roosters are not like that.
And if a dog barks, I used to have a barking dog. I was telling Carol earlier, and I went off to work, and some of the neighbors said to me, your dog's barking all day. Well, I was working, so I said to my husband, bring the dog in the house. Is it that if they closed off a section of that chicken coop and it was dark and the rooster was in there for a couple of hours and then let out, like bringing into a home, like we bring the dogs into a home, the rooster would be brought into a chicken coop that's not as lit, would he stop crowing?
I have no way of knowing the answer.
I doubt it.
don't know either.
I think also with a dog, most people don't let their dog out every single morning before dawn, and and starts
in the
barking, every single day, waking people up in the area there. So,
Anyways,
Thank you for your
Yeah.
time.
put it in the
Appreciate
hands
it,
of our
yeah,
town
yeah.
solicitor, and you'll be notified when it's back on the
Great.
agenda,
Thank
and
you very much.
we'll gather more information.
Thank you very much for listening to us. Appreciate
you.
it. Yep.
Thank you. Take care.
I believe I'm going to just see if Therese had come back to License A. I don't see her. All right, which brings us to comments from interested citizens. So this is the time if anyone would like to come to the microphone. Seeing none, I just like to give my updates on the town. We do have a household hazardous waste collection on Saturday, June 29th, here at the Town Hall from 8 to 1, and appointment is required, but I'm sure if somebody doesn't make the appointment, we'll still welcome them. So and I will give the phone number in case you'd like to make an appointment. It is 942-1430. Again, 942-1430, and it is extension 241. We also have on, let's see, June 22nd, it is the Governor's Commission on Disabilities. This is the time with people with disabilities and their family can come to a public forum and express their concerns. And we do have one on Tuesday, July 23rd, 4 to 6 at the South Kingstown Public Library, 1075 Kingston Road in Peacedale. And it's going to be hosted by Perspectives Corporation. I know I usually attend these, and it's usually quite a turnout, and people give their testimony on how the government can better improve the system with people with disabilities. So again, Tuesday, July 23rd at the South Kingstown Library from 4 to 6. We also want to say that on June 21st, we had the delightful dedication ceremony for 20 affordable housing units on 80 Samuel Rodman Drive, and we were lucky enough to have Governor Chafee present with us, as well as Senator Jack Reed and Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. And it has added to our affordable units, which is mandated by law, 10% affordable units. And I believe we are currently at 5.16, which is 562 units in our community that meet the definition of affordable housing, and that La Casa is currently accounting for 8.9% of that. So that was a wonderful welcome to the town. Town Council was also, on June 20th, we were fortunate enough to have our annual meeting with URI. It's our town gown meeting, and we had a very healthy, fruitful discussion with URI about some of their goals and some of what they're moving forward with, and it was quite impressive. We're very lucky to have URI here in our town. Larry Fish has asked me to extend an invitation to the opening of the soccer matches, and that will be Thursday, June 27th at 4:30. And we do have a proclamation that's included, in that. So it is the 2013 U.S. Youth Soccer Region 1 Championships. It's at the University of Rhode Island, June 27th through July 2nd, and there'll be 4,500 players who will be participating in the regional championships hosted by the U.S. Youth Soccer. So I'm not quite sure exactly where at URI, but I'm sure that Larry will get back to us. And I just want to congratulate the South Kingstown School Department for, again, another very heartwarming South Kingstown High School graduation. And from the Town Council, I want to wish good luck in all of the future endeavors for all of the graduates from the class of 2013, South Kingstown High School. Tuesday night, tomorrow night, very, very important date, probably one of the most important things that I think is going on with the Town Council. We have our Coastal Resources Management Council public hearing. It is at Capitol Hill. It's tomorrow at 4 o'clock. 6 o'clock. Thank you. Thank you, Carol. 6 o'clock tomorrow night up at Capitol Hill, and we're hoping that many of the businesses and the residents down there, there are 11 of them over in Matunic, do attend. And I know that Carol was in the ear of the governor and Jack Reed and speaking about that when we saw them at the dedication. And I've made phone calls to all of our legislators and received a few phone calls back. So hopefully that will be a very prosperous, productive public hearing tomorrow.
Oh, do we know what room it's in?
It was, do you have it, Steve, or I can look it up? Conference Room A. And we'll
Conference Room A, and it's at the State House, or is?
No. And there's a parking lot. Will we get parking passes?
Service lot right there at that time of day. It should be quite easy to park there.
I believe last year we just pulled right into the lot. Hope everybody's getting ready for our 4th of July celebration. I think that's about it. We have a very busy town. Jim?
Steve, tomorrow night, do you know if we are the only agenda item, or are there others ahead of us?
No, there's other agenda items. In fact, one of the agenda items involves Bristol and a petition that they have to change the classification of water, which is very similar to what South Kingstown's was a year ago. I'm not sure whether is that the only other item that was on that agenda?
We're actually the last item on the agenda. There are a number of items, I think, that are ready for decision by the full council. But I had printed out their agenda today, and we are bringing up the rear in terms of, so I don't know how long those other items will take, but, we're not, at 6
And
o'clock.
Vin, what room did you say, conference room?
It's Conference Room A, which is in the administration building, and it's up
It's where we went the last time, I would say, right?
Yeah, it's the room that, it's one of their main meeting rooms in there. It holds probably, 60 or 70 people, I think.
Yep.
Maybe a little more than that, so.
And I believe last year they had somebody greeting us down in the lobby and bringing us up, so
Yeah.
hopefully there'll be some signage and
Right. But they have the Capitol Police. They usually give you a badge to go in when you go up there, but I think it'll be findable, so.
Have any of the Matunic waterfront property owners been notified about this, or do you think they're aware of it?
Well, we sent a notice to all the property owners in our community. I don't know if Westerly, there's 38 properties in Westerly affected, not certain. I don't believe the CRMC provided specific individual notice to property owners.
Great, thanks.
one last thing that we received at the table tonight is South County Community Action Agency. It's called Youthful Program. They're inviting the town council for their GED graduation, which is Wednesday, June 26th at 6 o'clock at the University of Rhode Island Student Union. So if any town councilor can make that, and we wish the best of luck to the GED graduates. Any other comments from town councilors? Seeing none, town managers report, please.
In the June 13th package that was provided to the council, I provided a memorandum on the final certification for the 2013-2014 tax levy program. As noted, the council's budget directed that motor vehicle value exemption stay at the $3,000 level. We will get $167,774 is the estimate in state aid reimbursement for the first $500 of that exemption. The tax roll for the December 31st, 2012 roll was a revaluation year, which I think everyone is aware of. The final reduction in the roll was a total of $232 million were reduced from the roll, which works out to be about a 5.35% decrease. The average value of a residential structure, single-family unit in town, went from a total of $348,000 down to $328,887. The tax rate has been set at $15.47. That is a 97-cent increase over the current year rate of $14.50. Had there not been a revaluation, and had we used the same property values that were in place on December 31st of 2011, plus those increases for new construction during 2012, the rate would have gone from $15.40 to $14.50, up 7 cents. We're up 97 cents, but it's because of the 5.3% decrease in the taxable values of the community. For the average homeowner, what does that mean? It means that during the current year, taxes on the average home amounted to $5,048. Taxes for next year at the new rate of $15.47 will be $5,087, or approximately a $40 increase over the current year. The tax levy as a component of the budget increased by took the roll up the tax levy up to a total of $67,082,000. That was an increase of $682,000, or about a 1.03%, 1% increase over the current year. I provided the council with a breakdown of the exemptions that were issued this year that are based on state statute. These are provided for veterans, widows of veterans, Gold Star, blind, service disabilities, amounted to an exemption value in tax credits of $155,118. That was down from $156,850 in the current year, so it's about a $2,000 difference. The amount of exempted property was down, but obviously that's because the 5% discounting that occurred with the revaluation. So all told, we're looking at about a 1% increase and a 97-cent increase on the tax rate. We will be sending out the new tax bills for the first week in July to the second week in July. People can expect to see them at that time. Be glad to answer any other questions that may be out there on that tax roll.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions? Seeing none, Town Solicitor's report.
Let
Sorry,
me
Steve.
finish. I also provided the council in the June 13th package with a draft operations and maintenance agreement for the transfer in operations and maintenance on Plains Road. A component of that also is an abandonment of a portion of Plains Road and a redefinition of the road around the university. This is going to help with safety, particularly for the pedestrian crossover traffic that's using the parking lots that's going to the Ryan Center. There'll also be a new road that'll be constructed around the parking lot that'll be on university property that will become a component of Plains Road. I'd ask council to review that document. If they have any questions, to please get them to me. At this point, after I drafted the initial agreement, submitted that to the university, they signed off and requested the legal reviews. Michael's completed his review, and so too is the university's legal staff. So at this point, it'll be a decision by the university as far as authorizing signature on it. If the council provides authorization, and we'll have that on a future agenda, we would then have to schedule an abandonment hearing for that portion of the road that we would seek to have go back into the university ownership. Under an abandonment procedure, the property owners on either side of the road get to own that portion of the right-of-way which is abandoned. Since the university owns on both sides of the road under the same ownership title, if the council to approve the abandonment, then it would that property would then be ceded back to the university. The operations and maintenance agreement would place full responsibility on the university. There's also two components that would show municipal relationship. Municipal relationship would be one, that we would continue to provide the sanding operation and plowing on that road since it's been a component of the town highway system. And second, we would also provide for an overlay of a portion of the road from Flag Road up to the extent of the university's property holdings. With that in place, we would have the agreement that we feel is appropriate to recognize the university's use of that road and to take over the maintenance function associated with it. So that'll be coming forward. If there's any questions council has, I'd like to address those in advance of placing that on a future agenda for the council so that we can try to work out any of the bugs that may be there. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Does anyone have currently any questions for Steve in relationship to that topic? Okay. Which brings us to Town Solicitor's report.
Yeah. Just to reiterate, I will get some options to the council with regard to the issue that we discussed earlier involving roosters no later than your second meeting in July.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions for Michael? Seeing none, it brings us to appointments.
We have two vacancies on the Affordable Housing Collaborative Committee. One expires 8/2013, and the other expires 8/2015. Do we want to appoint to the longer term?
Sure.
Okay, so I move that Jean M. Behe be appointed to the Affordable Housing Collaborative Committee for the term that expires in August 2015.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And I also move that we reappoint James H. Caswell to the Building and Minimum Housing Code Board of Appeals. His term expired this month, June 2013, and we will appoint him for a 5-year term, which takes him to June 2018.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And I believe that we will invite Lucille Dickinson in for an interview. Okay? Which brings us to new business. Even though we had Maya Roth here, I'd like to have someone make a motion and we can affirm this resolution and vote on it. Could we have a motion for new business item A?
I make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And again, congratulations to Maya. And it brings us to new business, item C. This is a resolution authorizing award of bid for 2-year service contracts from July 1st, 2013 to June 30th, 2015 for electrical, plumbing, and HVAC to the following in accordance with the terms and conditions of the bid specifications and as further described in a memorandum from the building official to the town manager dated June 11th and entitled 2-year service contracts. So the electrical will be W.H. Holland Electric, and the plumbing will be Stedman and Kazunis Plumbing and Heating, and the HVAC will be Coastal HVAC. And it's nice to see that we have local businesses that have received these. Steve?
The recommendation is to go with the lowest qualified bidders. One of the things Jeff reviewed is what travel distances would be, along with the actual per-hour rates, and has qualified those bidders accordingly. There were 3 bidders on electrical, there were 2 bidders on plumbing, and 4 bidders on the HVAC for the 2-year contracts. Recommend council award as presented on the agenda.
Thank you.
I move then approval of Resolution C.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. New business, item D, is a resolution amending and affirming the town's liquor license rules and regulations as follow. And at this point, I'm not going to read it. It's as here, and I'm going to turn it over to Michael.
Right, we discussed making some changes to the first sentence in section 1. Instead of saying the maximum number of licenses, I'm going to suggest we say the current number of licenses for each class shall be authorized as indicated below, unless changed by a majority vote of the council. That'll just make it very clear that these are in fact the maximum in place unless you change it at some future point. Where maximum is crossed out under retail license A, you would keep that in with the parentheses beside it. And then the amendments at the bottom in B and C, you would in fact be deleting the references to the public informational hearing.
Do we have any questions for Michael? Seeing none, can we have a motion, please?
I move approval of new business item D.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
As
As amended. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale.
Second again.
Keep us in line. All right, which brings us to new business F, and we're going to remove that. We're going to remove it from our agenda. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that we remove new business item F from the agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second, so this item will be deleted. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. New business, item G, is a resolution authorizing an award of bid to Waste Haulers Limited Liability Corporation, 1 Starline Way, Cranston, Rhode Island, for the regular refuse and recycling package at the unit cost per pickup bid, and it's for the period July 1st, 2013 through June 30th, 2015, and is further detailed in memorandum from the Public Services Director to the Town Manager dated June 17th, 2013, and entitled Bid Recommendation, Refused Collection and Contract Bid, reference number SK00125, can't talk today, SK0012PS.
The recommendation that you've got from John Chalk refers to both items G and H. Item G, we were looking for the 2-year contract for general refuge removal as well as recycling services. The sole bidder was the current vendor of record, which is Waste Haulers, at the price of $29,324 for the general trash disposal, and for the first time a fee is required for dealing with the recycling program, which is provided at those municipal buildings at $3,120. Also within that bid recommendation, we had gone out for grit removal with the wastewater program. No bids were received. We've subsequently obtained a quote of $3,600 and entered into contract on that. Sludge transportation, which is that item H, is in at $175 per load, which is up considerably from the prior year. So, however, it's one that we anticipated during the budget development. So I'd recommend the council award as presented on both items G and H.
Thank you, Steve. So we're booking that together.
I move approval of new business item G and H.
Second?
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. New business item I is a resolution accepting the Kingston Historic District Homeowners Guidebook and the educational flyer regarding historic properties outside the Kingston Historic District as the final grant deliverables under the South Kingstown Certified Local Grant government grant awarded by the Rhode Island Historical Preservation and Heritage Commission, and as further described in the memorandum from the senior planner to the town manager dated June 14th and entitled Final Deliverables for CLG Grant. And is...
Yeah, Doug McLean
going to.
and Richard Youngkin are
Youngkin.
going to address this issue.
Thank you. Welcome.
We're going to keep our comments very brief. I'm the senior planner, and I also staff the Historic District Commission, and Rich Youngkin is here. We're just going to speak for a few minutes each, but we welcome your questions if you have any about the documents in front of you. As you may recall, in May of 2012, the town received a grant from the Rhode Island Historical Preservation and Heritage Commission to create documents that would serve as guidance to homeowners in the historic district and historic properties in the town in general, and also to address its own standards and guidelines in the review of any applications. In November of 2012, the council authorized the town to engage the consulting firm of Youngkin Associates, and we did so at that point. It should be noted that Rich Youngkin is also a member of the Historic District Commission, so as such, we actually sought an advisory opinion from the town's Special Legal and Planning Council. We sought an advisory opinion from the State Ethics Commission just to make sure there wasn't any conflict of interest. So both of those opinions verified that we could move forward so long as Mr. Youngkin recused himself as a commission member whenever leading any grant discussions. The two documents that you have in front of you, one's the fairly bulky one that basically discusses the Kingston Historic District, where we have an overlay zone, and the smaller one is just discussing advisory opinions that the Historic District Commission may be asked for on other historic properties in town. These two documents are the result of both edits from the town staff, comments from the state have been incorporated, and many meetings of review and revisions with the Historic District Commission. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce Mr. Youngkin.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. It's nice to be here with this very live microphone. I'm Richard Youngkin. I'm with Youngkin Associates, the consultants for the project. We had a fabulous time with this. Happy to say that Doug is a great staff person, and the commission, of course, performed outstandingly We went through a process, an educational process really, in looking at the standards and guidelines that they had, and then developing these, which are just an elaboration really, and provide more guidance to the commission and to the homeowners in Kingston. And I think one thing that pops out is the table of contents. You'll see in there that we're looking at all the various character-defining features of historic properties and developing really guidance on how to work with those in terms of preservation of those character-defining features. And we also worked on the philosophy of the commission, which is in line with the enabling law that historic district commissions work under. That really the preference is to repair, and if property has been deteriorated or parts of buildings have rotted and need replacement, then that replacement should be in kind. Really, the philosophy is to preserve the historic buildings as much as possible. But when new uses and people's lives require additions and changes, that those changes also be in keeping with the historic building and not detract from it. So some of this philosophy is very straightforward and very simple, but we wanted to convey it in a way that property owners would understand, and they would really see the value of their properties and how they contribute to the well-being of the whole community in Kingston and South Kingstown at large. So the guidebook provides that kind of background, we hope in a user-friendly way, and a way that gives people help, really much needed help in working on their buildings. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer any that you may have.
I have a few, but I will defer to other councilors. Any questions? Jim?
Yeah, Rich, how many other cities and towns have undertaken this process? And is this going to be registered with the state? Is there some way that this can gain some footage when it comes to protecting these properties from a state level, zoning level?
Well, what's interesting from the state level, I'll answer the last part of your question first, is that we're actually using the same standards and guidelines that are used nationally and at the state level. So we're really just reinforcing nationally accepted and state accepted guidelines that are the best practices for historic preservation in the field of historic preservation. So these are, you could even say that these are internationally used. So it does help the state considerably for local communities to be in step with their standards and with national standards. So in that regard, we become valuable team members for them, and likewise they become our valuable team members. We're all on the same page, and I think that's very important. The other thing that's wonderful about South Kingstown and many other communities in Rhode Island that have historic district commissions, there's a federal program that the state administers called the Certified Local Government Program. And that is a certification of local historic districts by the state and the federal government to actually have joint programs. And this work itself was funded by a grant, a CLG grant. When we become real team members and have standards that are acceptable and in sync with everybody else, we also stand to gain with grant funds being distributed to us to do more work. And that's what the CLG program is all about. So we're fully involved, we're fully partners with the state and the national government. And I must say we're also partners, I think, with all the nonprofits, Preserve Rhode Island, the National Trust for Historic Preservation, and others that promote these standards and guidelines and follow them as well with all their projects. So I hope, Jim, I hope that answers your question. We're becoming much closer and much more part of a bigger team. Now, you did have a question about how many other communities are doing this. Virtually all the communities in Rhode Island that have historic district commissions are doing this. And they're trying to get better and better at it. You all know that it's a process by which a commission is actually, reviewing people's dreams about their personal property. And we want to become partners in those dreams. And we want to help people with their dreams so that they do the best they can do with preserving the heritage of the town, but also realizing what they need to realize with their properties. So that's, part of the whole situation here is to get better at it.
Right. Carol?
Rich, now, if you had a property owner and that didn't necessarily see eye to eye with you on what would be best for the property, what is the benefit to the property owner to fill out the application and for you to convince them to stay within the style? I mean, can they get financial assistance through grant money or?
Well, I think what we would like to have are more benefits at the local level and at the state level. And I think tomorrow is an excellent, hopefully, cross your fingers, light some candles, they're going to be actually, hopefully approving this Rhode Island state credit, the tax
credit.
Reinstatement of the state tax
But
credit.
I understood that that was going to be for commercial enterprises only.
It
So
is.
this may not necessarily affect many of
That's-
the properties that you've outlined in this brochure.
That's true. It'll help the commercial properties in Kingston Village. There was a homeowner's tax credit which
Right.
was taken off, and that hopefully will be the next step of the statewide lobby group. But some communities have actually addressed that with a local tax abatement, or some sort of taxing mechanism that happens actually locally, that benefits property owners and gives them that little extra incentive. Because actually what they have by purchasing their properties in a district, they've taken on this role of stewardship
Sure.
that many of us who don't live in historic districts don't really have. And that extra role, maybe there is some reward for taking on that role, perhaps. And I think to answer your question about, what does our application form do for the property owner, and how does the process of review help them? What we're trying to do with this application form is have the property owner become familiar with the new guidebook, which it's like a cookbook. It sort of gives them advice on how to do the project in a way that benefits the building and hopefully benefits their pocketbook too, because we're trying to be very practical about these guidelines. And for instance, we give guidance on the windows that don't necessarily, accept that PR about changing out your windows, that the old windows that are in these historic buildings, they may be, in our mind, I have a 60s ranch, so I'm thinking 50-year-old window, that's pretty old for a basic building. But the wood that was used 100 years ago is far better than the wood they use today, or was even used 40 years ago. It lasts a lot longer. It was old growth wood with tighter grain. And it was more like using epee or teak on your windows today, if you can imagine.
But they may not be as energy efficient. So I can see how you could run into opposing interests. And I think what I'm trying to say is, most of the people who buy very old homes, I agree with you. I think they do buy into some sort of stewardship. But if you want to fix up an old home, and you already have to get your building permit, and if there's any zoning issues that you want to add on or anything, you have to go through all that. But now, in addition to this, here's this new application. But if, what you're helping these people with is assistance on how to do it.
Right.
To keep it in line with the
and we hope
the historic nature of the building.
Right, and we'll hope that they'll use the application form as a sort of a guide, because there's a checkoff list in the form which takes them to the page in the guidelines that might be part of their application, might give them guidance on their windows or their doors or whatever. And they can begin to read their some reasoning behind why the guideline says you should do this and not that.
So you would be an assistance to them, not somebody who's constantly looking over their shoulder to make sure they're doing it right.
Right. That's the aim is to really get them more into the world of preservation, which actually provides a lot of hands-on, practical guidance on how to do things with an historic house. Just like having an old car, you know, you have to sort of learn how to have it maintained properly so it keeps on running. Same thing happens with old houses. The technologies are different, the building materials are a bit different, the way you work with them is a bit different than you would with a modern house. And that kind of, when people really get enthusiastic about their historic houses and value them, then they are happy where they are in the district and they love all this stuff. And we're trying to get our people sort of in that frame of mind as they begin to participate with the commission.
So do you deal with mostly the exterior as opposed to the interior, or are you also dealing with the interior?
No, we don't really deal with the interior. It's all the exterior. It's what's in the public realm more than anything else. Of course, if there is something happening on the interior that affects the exterior, then we need to help with that. But it's really, our focus is not on the interior, it's on the exterior. And we do not focus on paint colors either. Paint colors are not, that is a preference, it changes.
Right.
It's a personal preference, really.
Right.
My question, Rich, is, you know, how we get the word out. Do you plan on distributing these, you know, around town? Is there going to be some kind of a mailer going to, you know, postcard? How are we getting the word out? And I think that it's beautifully done. I love the form. I love the way that it's put together with the appropriate and the not appropriate and very user-friendly. So I'll stop and leave it at, how will you get the word out?
Well, I think the plan, and Doug can correct me, but I think the plan is actually to send this to each property owner in the Kingston district. And it will also be on the webpage of the Historic District Commission, so everybody can have access to it on the internet. And there'll be other links on the internet to other useful information, including the whole sort of realm of historic preservation support that exists. So we hope that if you own a historic property in Kingston, you can actually shop at the town of South Kingstown and, you know, get information and have a useful commission and useful guidance on how to undertake your project.
And my last question is this a practice that if somebody's doing any kind of renovations to their historic property now, do they currently come and seek the South Kingstown Historic District Commission, you know, recommendations, or are we starting from ground up?
No, they actually have, there's quite a long history, and remember, what's very cool about South Kingstown is that this commission is one of the oldest commissions in the country. It was founded by ordinance in 1959. In Rhode Island, perhaps the Providence, the Benefit Street District existed, but this is probably the second or the first district in Rhode Island, and apparently there are only a few districts in the country older than this, maybe Charleston, South Carolina.
Nice.
So it was really remarkable, and you know, the Pettiquomscut Historical Society has celebrated its 50th not too long ago, but that sort of convergence of interest in Kingston, and I heard you had this you know, talk with the university, but 50 years ago, the wise people in Kingston Village realized that the campus was expanding, the university was a huge powerhouse, beneficial in the town, but they needed to protect that fabulous historic village for what it was, its historical character, its architecture, and with the university being right there, they were in great jeopardy of a commercial district or something else happening. It really predated zoning. So in many respects, you know, our subdivision regulations and such. So it was a very wise effort, and it was due to their you know, polling, and they're getting community support, and they're talking to the council members at the time that they had this enacted. And so they've been providing this guidance ever since that time. They just haven't put it, they had it together in a brochure that was a trifold type brochure, and they had 10 very general guidelines or standards. But they weren't specific. They were just very general. And we felt that it really needed to be more specific. More guidance needed to be provided.
And you laid that history out beautifully here, and, you know, with the connection with URI and whatnot. So, do we have other questions here at the town council table? Seeing none, I just want to extend a thank you, a huge thank you,
You're very welcome.
to the South Kingstown Historic District Commission, and I do want to state their names. Peter Nunes is the chair, and James Schofield, William Sheffield, Rosalind Gaines, and you as well. You get a double thank you for putting it together, and town staff Doug McLean. It's really a nice document, so thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
So could we have a motion, please?
I move approval of new business item I.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. New business J is a resolution authorizing an award of bid to Patrick McKenna Roofing, P.O. Box 3132, Pawtucket, Rhode Island, for the Factory Pond roofing projects in an amount not to exceed $38,000, including a $2,900 contingency, and is further described in a memorandum from the Public Service Director to the Town Manager dated June 17th, 2013, and entitled Bid Recommendation, Factory Pond Roofing Projects.
Recommendation is to go with McKenna Roofing, lowest qualified bidder. We did change from the capital budget, and I wanted it noted. The capital budget showed us replacing roofs on well number 1 and well number 2. It did not show us also replacing on the third building, which was the office shop. Based on the condition of that roof, I believe that should be done at the same time as these other 2 roofs. So I'd recommend the council award for those 3 roofs for a total of the, as presented here, at $38,000, which includes a $2,900 contingency.
Thank you.
I move approval of new business item J.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. New business K is a resolution authorizing an award of bid to D'Amber Construction Company Incorporated, 800 Jefferson Boulevard, Warwick, Rhode Island, for the pavement overlay program in an amount not to exceed $1,743,043, including a $195,000 contingency, and is further described in a memorandum from the Public Services Director to the Town Manager dated June 17th, 2013, and entitled Bid Recommendation, Pavement Overlay Program.
I won't go through in detail all of the roads that are involved. I will say that when the capital budget estimated that for the 12-13 and 13-14 year, that we would be spending approximately $1,750,000 for the overlays on the roads that are listed within the memorandum. When the bids came in, there were 5 companies that bid. The lowest qualified bidder was D'Amber Construction at $1,273,892. We then looked at roads that were scheduled in the capital budget for future years in 14-15, and looked at Green Hill Beach Road, which is also in poor condition, and recommended that the council include that on the list to be completed. With an overlay project, we'll be estimating what the cost is on tonnage basis. So obviously, the more materials that are brought in on the roads, the more expensive the project becomes. When we do reconstruction, we do it on a square yard basis, so it's a lot easier to estimate in advance of the contract. The other thing that's going to come into play with overlaying is that we have to shim the roads out, which means that we flatten them out before we put the overlay on it. That's going to also provide us with some potential cost increases if, in fact, the road base is not adequate to be able to properly hold the overlay itself. That's why the $195,000 is there. There's approximately $2 million available within our program, capital program at this point, to be able to accomplish the work that we're estimating at this point with a not-to-exceed number of $1,743,043. Be glad to answer any questions council may have.
Any questions here for Steve? Seeing none, can we have a motion, please?
I move approval of new business item K.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. New business item L is a resolution that available funds of $1 million in the Healthcare Reserve Fund shall be transferred to the other Post-Employment Benefit Trust Fund as established by the Town Council on June 23, 2009, as further described in a memorandum from the Finance Director to the Town Manager dated June 20, 2013, and entitled Year-End Reserve Fund Transfers.
when we completed the audit of the 2011-12 year, we found that the undesignated fund balance within the healthcare reserve had raised for municipal purposes to $3,022,270. At that point, we saw that there was sufficient dollars in there to transfer a portion of that reserve retained earnings to the OPEB trust. The OPEB trust is there for post-employment health care benefit cost sharing. What that is the cost of health care once an employee retires and the benefits that they're entitled to. Most of those benefits are limited to a stipend, or they're limited to a 5-year period, or in the case of police and EMS, it would be from the time that the person retires till age 65, they would be entitled to town coverage. The OPEB liability, which was last established in June 30th of 2011 for the general fund, stood at about $8.8 million. Assets within the trust fund that were being held amounted to about 1.2. Over the 2-year period, we now have about $1.7 million. The hope, what we're looking for and recommending here is to transfer $1 million in funds that are within the retained earnings of the healthcare reserve fund into the OPEB. Those dollars are the result of income to the healthcare reserve for services that weren't rendered. In other words, if we were to budget for 200 employees, yet over the course of the year averaged only 187 employees, the value of those healthcare plans, the dollars would still have gone into the healthcare reserve. What it would also look at is we've had lower medical costs associated with our book of business than had been projected, which means that we were able to generate dollars within the healthcare reserve that were not expended. At this point, the transfer would be transferring dollars to OPEB post-employment healthcare costs liability from healthcare dollars that were raised in the general fund or in the general fund over the past several years. So I'd recommend the council take that action tonight in advance of the June 30th year. I'd also note that we will be doing an additional actuarial with the OPEB trust fund. In fact, there's an item on tonight's agenda which I'll ask you to continue for another 2 weeks. But we will be establishing new liability estimates based on new conditions. Over the past year, we needed to look at what the investment rates, which are whether or not they've attained what had been estimated in 2011. We need to look at what the healthcare cost increases have been, as well as what the pension reform means to retirement age, as well as what the copay and retirement cost increases that we've instituted will mean to what future liabilities will be. We see some of those factors will reduce liability, and we see other of those factors that will increase liability. So at this point, what we want to do is to transfer that $1 million. That would give us approximately $2.7 million of the overall $8.8 million that is unfunded at this point. At that point, we should have somewhere in the area of 25% of what the trust fund value would be as a funded ratio. So with that, I'd answer any questions council may have on the issue of the resolution that's before you this evening.
Any questions for Steve on new business item L?
I move approval of new business item L.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. New business M is a resolution that program balance identified below in the 2012-13 fiscal year appropriations for General Fund 101 shall be transferred to the following reserve funds and the corresponding not-to-exceed amounts, and as further described in memorandum from the Finance Director to the Town Manager dated June 20th, 2013, and entitled Year-End Reserve Fund, and as noted in the agenda. Do I
I
need to?
provided the council with a first estimate of what we expect to spend through the general fund as of June 30th of 2013, as well as the revenue statement of what we anticipate taking in during that fiscal year. Overall, we're estimating that the projected surplus would be approximately $1.3 million. In addition to that, additional income which will be recorded in the general fund include insurance proceeds from our injured on duty excess insurance, as well as reimbursement for Hurricane Sandy reimbursements through the federal government. That'll boost the overall estimated surplus for the year to about $1,675,000. What we're recommending that you do is to transfer $617,000, which would reduce the projected surplus position to $1,058,000. We want at minimum $1 million surplus to, in recognition of the fact that the 13-14 budget year includes $1 million in undesignated funds being forwarded to that year's budget. This way, what we'll be looking at is that the 12-13 year will have revenues in excess of what total expenditures were by $58,000. Question was asked in the pre-session of if these transfers occurred, how much occurred last year. Last year, the transfer amount was $500,000. $350,000 went for the data processing improvement fund, and $150,000 was transferred into the Streets and Highway Department. This year, the transfers that we're looking for are $17,000 into the Town Hall Improvement Fund, $72,000 out of the data processing improvements, $98,000 to Public Works improvements, and $230,000 to the compensated absences reserve fund. The fifth area is in the Public Services Building Improvement. We're recommending $200,000, and when we took the council on the tour, we advised the council that there was a need for a capital project in terms of renovation of the Public Services Building to better accommodate the vehicles that are used for the EMS and that are housed at that location, as well as the staff there. Rather than holding off and bringing this in as a capital budget item, we're anticipating that the first $200,000 would be based on the transfer that's recommended to you this evening. So the total would be $617,000. It would still provide an estimated $1 million in the surplus position. I would also comment that we are still being conservative as far as the estimate of property tax collection for the year. Property taxes are collected based on a 60-day rule, which means that anything that we collect during the months of July and August is taken as a revenue and recorded as a revenue for the 12-13 year, even though it's subsequent to the year for those 60 days. The estimate could be as much as $100,000 under what actually does come in if it were to track exactly where it had tracked last year. So there's still flexibility here. And the other point that I would make is that on any of the transfers, we've recommended that the council language be in an amount not to exceed. That way, should we see any unexpected expenditures over the remaining 2 weeks of the fiscal year, we would reduce what the finance director would actually use as a transfer dollar amount. So these would be capped numbers rather than full numbers. Do I think that all 617 will be transferred? The answer is absolutely yes, but we would still have that flexibility. Any questions?
I move approval of new business item M.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And I'm not even going to read new business item N. I'd like a motion to continue this to the next meeting, and it's in reference to the GATSB, the Government Accountability Standards, and it's for the actuarial services for the valuation. So can we have a motion to continue item N?
could I change that request? Could I ask you to remove it from the agenda? Because if there's changes in the recommendation, there would be changes in that resolution. If we continue it, I'd have to bring 2 resolutions forward that would be in conflict.
That's
So I'd
great.
ask to just have N withdrawn from the agenda this evening.
I move that we remove a new business item N from the agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, which brings us to a closed executive session. Before we go there, is there anything else for the good of the order? Seeing none, I'm going to ask for a closed executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 42-465A2 to discuss matters pertaining to collective bargaining relative to the IBPO Local 489 contract. And can we have a roll call vote, please?
Council President Whaley.
Aye.
Council Vice President McAtee.
Aye.
Councilman Donnelly.
Aye.
Councilwoman Healy.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Thank you. We're in closed executive session. The time is 9:05.
Did you move it?
I move that we go into closed executive session.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.